So we're building for about half the cost and oftentimes almost a third of the time. And that's a big deal right now, especially in this interest rate environment, because it's the carrying costs that are going to kill you right now.
If you're within 3 feet of me, we're probably talking about real estate, much to my family's chagrin. But here's the thing. Most people see 7% rates and freeze. I see opportunity. They're waiting for the perfect deal, and well, I've analyzed thousands of them, and perfect just doesn't exist. So I talk to operators across every asset class, flippers, multifamily syndicators, note investors, and whatever else is working. No sales pitches allowed, just real lessons from people actually doing it. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground. Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. It is Ed Matthews with the Real Estate Underground. Thank you so much for listening to us and making us a part of your day. I'm truly grateful, and keep those comments coming, because one of the things that we're trying to do with the show is evolve the types of professionals that we interview, as well as the asset classes we're paying attention to. Today is actually a really good example of that. So thank you for all your comments. And what's interesting, I find that about half, 54% as a matter of fact, of the folks that listen to our show actually don't subscribe to it. So if you could do me a favor and hit follow or subscribe, depending on your platform, I'd also be grateful, because it does help us grow, and keep those comments coming, because it helps us with what we're going to talk about. So today we're going to talk about self-storage, and with my friend Neil Henderson of Nomad Capital. Neil, welcome to the show. It's good to see you again.
You too, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I had the honor of being on your show probably about a year ago, right? It was a while ago. Yeah. So I'm sorry it took us so long to get you back, but thank you for your time today. It's good to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For those folks who don't know about you and Nomad, why don't you tell us about who you are and what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm Neil Henderson. I'm one of the general partners at Nomad Capital. I'm also the director of investor relations. We're a Wilmington, North Carolina based private equity firm. We focus on self-storage with a little bit of a twist. We don't usually buy self-storage. We don't build self-storage. We prefer to buy vacant buildings and convert them into climate controlled storage across the Southeast.
Yeah. So tell me about that. And we were talking about a project you have off before we hit record. I'm fascinated by your business model, because it's solving a community problem, which I love. And it's also putting you in a position where you can build a thriving business in some really amazing towns throughout the Southeast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your approach and what's your buy box look like? Let's start there.
Yeah. So there's 4 self-storage strategies that most people employ. There's either they build from the ground up, they buy an existing facility that needs an operational turnaround, they buy an existing facility that has room to expand, sort of a lighter load value add, or they do a conversion. We've done all 4 of those. We like the conversion because it provides the best blend of heavy value add and ground up development. And here's why we like it. If you or I, Ed, were to go out and build a ground up self-storage facility today, it's going to cost us anywhere from $120 to $130 a square foot to build it. And that's just for the cost of the construction. That does not include the cost of the land. On top of that, the average time to build a self-storage facility from the ground up right now is 2 years and 10 months. That includes the time to buy the land, get the entitlement, prep the land to build, and then to start building.
Yep.
On average, our last 8 deals we have built for an average of $65 a square foot. And that includes everything. That's the cost of the building, the land, the construction, everything. Now, some of our costs are starting to trend a little bit higher, I think, on some of our upcoming projects. It's just the nature of the market right now. Yeah. But that's kind of where we've been. On top of that, on average, we're anywhere from 12 to maybe 14 months from acquisition to certificate of occupancy and having our doors open. So we're building for about half the cost, and oftentimes almost a third of the time. And that's a big deal right now, especially in this interest rate environment, because it's the carrying costs that are going to kill you right now. When we buy a building, we're getting a long-term loan on there. We're not doing it. We are doing a construction loan, but it's a long-term loan. It's 25-year AM, sometimes even 30-year AM. And they're typically loaning us what are called interest reserves, which is kind of the money that we need to kind of survive while that project, once it's open, while it leases up. And you'll very quickly, the longer a project takes to get open, the faster you're going to burn through those interest reserves, or the larger amount of interest reserves you're going to need. And that really starts to just squeeze the whole deal. So that's really why we love conversions. We also like it because a lot of times you can get yourself into a little market in an area where there's not a lot of vacant land to build a brand new self-storage. We can go in, we can buy a building where there was an old Kmart, where there was already the community's already around there. It's in the retail corridor, but that building has been vacant for a long time. It's been killed by Amazon and just online shopping, but people still know where that is. They drive by it every day. It's got easy access, good visibility, and we can go in there and convert it to self-storage. And then people end up taking a lot of those goods that they bought from Kmart and taking it back and storing it in the same place.
Because their basement's full. Yeah, it's interesting. Here in the Northeast, the malls and strip malls that Amazon hadn't killed, COVID did. And so it's in a lot of cases, it's a blight, right? These malls, people are just not, unless you're 17 years old and like my daughter and likes to go to the mall. Neil, I haven't been in a mall in years. And I'm pretty confident I'm not atypical, that I'm and it's interesting. It's interesting in several respects. One, the compression of the timeline to get these from acquisition to operational is really impressive. And I'm curious about so are you vertically aligned? Do you have a construction team as part of your company, or do you outsource, or a combination thereof? What's the approach?
It's a great question. We are vertically integrated. We have under our roof here in Wilmington, we've got Nomad Capital, which handles the acquisition, capital markets, and capital raising. We've got Elm Builders, which is our construction company. And then we've got City Storage Management, which is our self-storage management company. So we're fully vertically integrated.
Nice.
And that's really our secret sauce, especially on the construction side. You could do this with a third-party construction company, but we charge our deals, our Elm charges our deals 12% construction on top of cost plus 12. Most construction, they're going to be cost plus 25. And on top of that, they're right here. They're literally on the other side of this wall from me right here. And so anytime we have a change order, it's literally, we walk next door and we say, hey, we need to change this. And on one of our most recent deals, the unit mix has very much been in flux. And if we were working with a third-party contractor, those change orders would kill us.
Yeah.
They'd up the cost and they'd up the timeline. So we're able to do it very quickly. And that's really where I say our secret sauce is, that we come from a construction background. The founders, Eric and Levi Hemingway, were builders since the 90s. Eric built his first self-storage facility from the ground up in 2006. He did his first conversion in 2016. He bought another conversion in 2017. He's done a ground up development. So we are our best team right now. We just had our company's annual meeting yesterday, and we were looking at the metrics, and our construction team is absolutely crushing it. We're expanding. We're bringing on guys that used to work for Turning Whiting. It's a very talented team.
Yeah, excellent. And is your construction team entirely focused on your projects, or do you do work for others as well?
We are starting to. That is one of their mandates this next year, is they're going to start bidding out some other projects, just because it's profitable. It keeps the lights on in this building. We don't want to be constantly we got to keep them employed, and we don't want to be constantly have this pressure of, we got to find a deal to put these guys on and end up taking a bad deal just because we wouldn't put them to work.
Yeah, the bench is just as expensive as the carry costs on a
Yeah.
project. Okay. And then in terms of the management company, tell me more about that. Are you obviously these days you're not acquiring dysfunctional operations. You're basically ground up, but obviously you're buying the box first and then retrofitting it. In the past, have you done that, or has it been a while since you've gone in and revamped an operation?
The only time we've ever really done that operational turnaround was that third facility that Eric acquired. It was an existing conversion. It was badly mismanaged. It did not have climate control. It was an old warehouse that had the old sodium lights
Oh,
that remember if you and I probably remember the days of being in the gym where you come in and you turn them on and you hear this clunk,
yes.
and then they slowly get brighter and brighter.
Right.
They eat power and they take forever to turn on. And so the owner just left them on 24 hours a day, just burning power.
Wow.
And the place also wasn't climate controlled. So they were getting killed on the electricity expenses. And it was cold in the winter and hot in the summer.
Yeah.
And so he came in and he's like, all right, I'll buy it. It was mismanaged. It was the original owner had passed away. It was being run by his son, being run into the ground. And he bought it. And the two big things he did was, one, he enclosed it and he added HVAC. And then he went and talked to the local power company and said, hey, I've got these old sodium lights. Can you maybe come in and replace them with LED? And they said, yeah, we can do that. Not only can we do that, we basically have a program in place. We'll basically do it for free. And we're familiar with that building, and we offered to do it for them for years, and they always said no. And so they came in. I think it cost him maybe 10 grand to tear out all those sodium lights, and they put in motion activated LED lights. So now the facility is climate controlled. So it was not hot in the summer. It was and not cold in the winter. So he was able to charge more. And then the lights, the LED lights, there's some lights that stay on all the time, but then the rest just turn on as people walk through the facility.
There's LED lights.
LED lights.
Nothing.
Even adding HVAC, his electricity expenses went down.
I'll bet.
And then he was able to charge a higher premium for the climate controlled unit.
Yeah,
We do look for operational turnaround facilities right now.
Yeah.
It's not, the opportunities just aren't there right now. The owners, we had this conversation yesterday. The owners have not caught up to the price of where it needs to be right now. There was a period coming out of COVID where facilities the prices went way high.
Yeah.
And a lot of those original owners are still clinging to those prices when they probably shouldn't be. So it's just the opportunity's not there yet. I think it will be coming soon, but there's just too much opportunity for us in conversions.
Same things happening in multifamily world, right? I have this conversation on a fairly regular basis, even today, where a deal will come across my desk and I'll get on the phone with the owner and we'll get to the point where we're talking price. And it's some variation of, look, I am happy to pay your 2021 price if you're willing to give me 2021 terms. Oh, humana. You know, oh, that's the deal. And so you mentioned that you see things rationalizing a little bit. And so I'm curious if you could take out your crystal ball just for a moment. What do you see in the market today that indicates that there's a turn coming at least in self-storage?
Yeah. So storage, just like commercial real estate, I think in general has been in a bear market for the last 3 years, especially multifamily. Anybody who's listening, who's been involved, I'm an LP in some multifamily deals. I haven't lost any money, thank God. I haven't had any capital calls yet, but they're all struggling. Pause distributions. Self-storage is in a lot of the same boat, just not quite as bad. A lot of what happened with self-storage, we were probably about to enter a market correction with self-storage in 2019. It's just like the supply had hit a peak, and a lot of people were saying, hey, things are going to start slowing down. Then COVID hit.
Right.
And suddenly everybody was moving. People were converting bedrooms into home offices, homeschool rooms, and storage went crazy from about 2020 to end of 2022. And so it was all of a sudden reignited this fire with self-storage. Then in late 22 and then early 23, the home prices had shot up along with interest rates. Suddenly people were getting price squeezed and suddenly people stopped moving. And that's really been the story of self-storage over the last 3 years. Anywhere from 30 to 50% of storage demand comes from people moving. And at the end of 2024, we were at a 30-year low in people moving in the United States. Because think about it. Almost 50% of people who own a house today have a mortgage that's probably below 4%.
Yeah.
And if they want to move, even if they want to downsize from a 2,000 square foot house to a 1,000 square foot house, their new loan is probably going to be, their mortgage payment is probably going to be the same, if not higher.
Yep.
Because the home prices have shot up and they're starting, we can see it looks like it's starting to correct in some markets, but it's not there yet. And interest rates are starting to come down. We're starting to see it. We had our strongest spring lease up period in 3 years this last spring, so we're starting to see people move. And people just, life moves on. People have to move for jobs. Baby boomers have to downsize. So people are just having to do it. But so there's two things that are starting to happen with storage. One is the construction pipeline is getting smaller and smaller. There's less, like, it doesn't make sense to build from ground up.
Yeah.
And so the supply of new storage coming online is dropping, which is good for us because we want to be in a position in a couple of years to be some of the only guys on the dance floor that have product to sell if we want to sell. The other thing that's happening is there was a lot of people who got into storage in 2021, 2022, just like multifamily. And they may have gotten in with good rates back then. And I don't think self-storage is having as much of a problem with the floating rate debt. They just didn't do that. But a lot of them, they're commercial loans and their term is 5 years. And so their term's coming up in 2026. There's going to be a lot of storage facilities coming where their loan is due and they're not going to be able to refinance because the market, it's been really, what we've seen in storage a lot of the times is the REITs, the big REITs, this public storage, extra space, things like that. They essentially just started dropping their rates like crazy. They're essentially trying to buy occupancy. Yeah. And so their NOI has been going down. Their occupancy is staying pretty good, but their NOI is going down. And then us, the small operators, are having to play the same game.
Right.
And we've been having to lower our rates to keep our occupancy up. And the NOI is just not there. And so now you're going to have all these guys that bought 4 or 5 years ago that now they're going to try and come to market with a facility that they were thinking was 95% occupied when they bought it. And now it's maybe 85% occupied and their NOI has also dropped. And now they're not going to be able to go to the bank. The bank's going to say, okay, term's up. What are you going to do? Right. So that's where we think there's going to be some opportunity in addition to just the way that construction is slowing down.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you are part of a group that has to bring cash to when your 5 year comes due, hopefully you've been saving for a rainy day. If not, there's either a capital call or a sale. Yeah. And multifamily's gone through a very similar process. I suspect we're probably a year, 18 months ahead of you. It's pretty prescient that it would follow. And it's interesting because self-storage from a track record perspective has always outperformed. I'm going back 50 years, right? Has typically outperformed multifamily by 4 or 5 points. And it's an asset class that I always thought about getting into. And I wish I did in 2019 when I first started doing my homework, and maybe I'll get a shot in 27 instead. That's okay. I'm still a young man. Maybe you can let me play a limited partner on one of your future deals. So in terms of the business, obviously you've got a pretty big project. You mentioned you're acquiring a strip mall in North Carolina right now. How many of those projects are you comfortable taking on at any given time?
Our pace has been about 4 a year. I think we feel pretty good about doing up to 6.
Okay.
I'll say And I'm speaking as the investor relations guy, that one of the hardest parts right now is just raising the capital that fast.
Yeah.
And our raises are not usually huge. Right now this raise is like 2.8 million. On average, our raises are anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million. They're not big raises.
And these are on $6-8 million projects, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, and so a lot of that, I assume, is being in terms of capital stack, is a lot of it is seller financing. Is that my understanding? Or
On this particular deal, this is our first seller finance deal, and I'll give a little bit of color on this deal. We first found this deal. We love Kmart conversions. We've done 2 Kmart conversions, one in Danville that recently exited. We've got another one in Reidsville, North Carolina. It's a great big open box. At one point, there were over 2,000 Kmarts in the United States. Now every single one of them's gone. And this one, it's part of a big strip mall, 171,000 square foot strip mall in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, where that Kmart has actually been closed since 1983. And it's been a couple of other things, but it's been vacant a lot of that time. And we came in, we approached the owner about buying just the Kmart. We just wanted the Kmart to convert it to self-storage. And he's, nah, I don't want self-storage. I want another big box in there. I want something else. And we said, what if we bought the whole strip mall? And he's like, okay, actually, maybe I'll listen to that. And so we negotiated. It's in a nice area of Rocky Mount, but it's a little bit of an older, it's an 80s vintage, late 70s, 80s vintage strip mall that it just needs some TLC.
Right.
And so we're acquiring it for $6 million, 171,000 square feet of and 25 acres of land. I think roughly 2.5 million of that is seller finance in second position. We've got interest only for 5 years, or no, 3 years. And then I think the term on the seller finance part ends. We got a balloon in 5 years, but we've got a option to extend for another 2 years, I think.
Yeah. And when your construction timeline is what you said, like 14 months, not for this project, but in general.
That's correct.
Boy, that's with a 3-year interest only, that gives you some pretty good rocket fuel coming out of the box, right?
Correct. And our first position loan with a bank has 2 years of interest only.
Nice.
So it's a little different for us. There's the strip mall is 50% occupied. So it has income on it for us, which we've done that a couple of times recently with some other similar projects, not exactly retail, but they were triple net tenants that were on the property as well. So that sort of helps de-risk it a little bit for us.
Yeah, sure.
Other people think the biggest risk is the construction. For us, it's not. We're in and out in 12 months. The biggest risk for us is the lease up, because we build this out in 12 months and now we've got an empty facility.
Right.
And now we have lease it up.
Right.
And you're in this kind of race to lease it up while you've got these interest reserves. And so you're trying to get to profitability and break even point before those interest reserves run out. And then we end up having to feed it, which we've had to do on some deals, and we can do that. We've never done a capital call, but it's not where we want to be. Right. And this produces got roughly $60,000 a month gross revenue coming in from the rest of the strip mall, which helps us offset some of the income while we build out the self-storage facility.
Yeah.
And just puts us further ahead of the game and closer to profitability once we are.
That's a whole lot of oxygen. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Okay. Hey, we're getting into the latter part of the show, so I could talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Fascinated by your business. Let's get into the final 5 and then we'll dismount. So I'm curious, leaders like yourself, people who have done as well as you and your partners have done, as I like to say, the mortgages are handled, the college tuitions are set aside or are already taken care of. There's little or no car payments. You guys are doing fine, right? And nevertheless, you get in your car on Monday morning and you come careening into the office ready to go. And I look at that as purpose, right? And so I'm curious, what gets you out of bed on Monday mornings? What gets you into the office?
Say my son. I have a 11-year-old son. I became a dad late in life. I was 44 when my son was born, 45. I don't know. I can't keep track anymore.
Time goes quick.
Yeah, it does. And it's just, I had I grew up, I hit the jackpot with my parents. It won the lottery. But my dad was a very successful Air Force officer, and he was gone a lot
Yeah.
when I was growing up. So for me, it's really about being present and trying to be there as much for my son as I can until we set him free and he goes off on his own. So that's really, for me, that's, if you ask me what my purpose is, that's it.
I get it. You only get 18 summers with these kids. And I'm at the tail end of that. So we had kids a little bit younger. And it's interesting. I have a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old. And they're great kids. They love their parents, all of that. But when they come home, they don't want to hang out with us. They want to go out with their friends and go do their thing. And we made the mistake of giving them cars so they can go do that. We can't even maroon them at the house. So it's
I'm taking notes, Ed.
yeah. Don't give them cars. That's the key, right? Make them walk. Then they'll stay home more often. Now, then their friends will come pick them up and it's the same thing. But yeah, you only get 18 summers and they're wonderful. But I think we just experienced our second to last summer with our youngest. Whew. All right. With that, I'm curious about, as you've grown career-wise and also your business, I'm curious about the mentors you've had along the way. And more specifically, I'm really interested in the best advice you've ever been given and who gave it to you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A motivated seller just filled out your web form. If you call back within 5 minutes, you're nearly 4 times more likely to get that seller appointment. But delay your follow-up by even just 10 minutes? Forget it. You're toast. Ella Vista Connect calls that lead back in 60 seconds, qualifies them, and schedules your meeting. Find out how much slow follow-up is costing you. Free calculator at ellavista.com/underground.
Best advice I was ever given. This is not a mentor. This is not the words of my mentor, but one of my mentors is my business partner, Eric Hemingway. And it was an unintentional mentorship. We mentored each other in a lot of respects. Eric was a very successful commercial real estate builder, even before I met him, but unsophisticated when it came to scale, things like that. And Eric, the brilliance of Eric is his ability to spot value. And that comes from, and it's not complicated, it comes from Sam Zell, very famous, you know the name, very famous commercial real estate investor who died a couple of years ago. And he said, if you can buy for below replacement cost, you're so far ahead of the game.
Right.
It gives you so much margin of safety that you can make a lot of mistakes. If you're able to buy for below replacement cost, you know, that you're so far ahead of the game that you have to kind of work at it to really screw it up.
Yeah, you got to really be focused on screwing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, his book is one of my favorites. Am I Being Too Subtle is the book I'm referring to for those folks that don't know Sam Zell. But all right, yeah, and I couldn't agree more. That's true with every asset class in this space. So speaking of trying to screw things up, I'm curious about a decision that you made along the way that you look back on and you go, man, I would love to have that one back. I fundamentally think we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. So what's a decision that you'd love to have back? And how'd you handle it? What'd you do about it?
Yeah. So the first piece of real estate I ever bought was my first house. I bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a 1-year-old condo. I bought it in February of 2005. It was a year old. It had doubled in value in a year. So should have been my first red flag. I bought it for $205. I think the guy who I bought it from was getting a divorce, bought it for $100. I think the value at one point went up to, in late 2008, maybe early 2009. I think it was valued at $275. I ended up short selling it in 2014 for $60,000 when it was worth $60,000. I sold it for $100. The buyer bought it for $100. I ended up getting out with nothing more than a short sale on my record and a $5,000 promissory note that was zero interest that I had to pay $83.99 on for 5 years. And I paid not a dime over that for that period of time, paid it off over 5 years. So the big lesson there was be fearful when others are greedy, because at the time, everybody was telling me, "Hey, you got to get into the housing market because it's going up so fast. If you don't get in, you're going to be left behind." I should have rented. There's nothing, the housing costs, and that's very much in the position that a lot of people are in right now. The housing costs, it makes more sense to rent right now than it does to buy.
It does.
Just does.
Without a doubt.
And so many people are frustrated that they can't buy a house. And I tell them, look, either just don't sweat. Don't. It's okay. It's okay to
Not a race. It's okay.
Not a race.
Yeah.
Or you got to get creative. And I'm a big fan of house hacking. I currently house hack where I live right now. You got to get creative. And it means that you're not going to be buying your forever home right out of the gate. And you may have to have roommates. You may have to have somebody living on property with you. You may need to Airbnb a guest house on that property and then ADU.
Yep.
So that's really, did I answer your question?
You did, indeed. So I'm also interested how leaders like yourself take in information. Who is that? What book is on your either actual or virtual nightstand? Who are you paying attention to?
How to Break Up with Your Phone. And I can't remember the author right now. I'm addicted to like most human beings, I'm addicted to this little square screen. And it's unhealthy for me in a myriad of ways. It's a dopamine delivery system.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I use this analogy. I used to drive back and forth between Las Vegas and LA a lot back in the early 2000s before smartphones came out. And I would listen to music.
Yeah.
And my mind would wander and I'd daydream and I'd come up with business ideas and I'd come up with creative ideas for the things I was working on. I haven't been bored, Ed, in 15 years, because the moment I'm bored, I pick up this screen and I find some dopamine hit.
Yep.
So I'm halfway through the book. I feel like I'm in a bit of a program. And one of the first things I did recently was I did a digital Sabbath starting at Friday night at 6 p.m. I put all of my screens away and it lasted all the way until 6 p.m. the next day. And I was amazed. And one of the things that she tells you to do is to, when you're out and about, to notice people on their phone and picture it as if they're holding a cigarette. And I took a walk. I live across the street from the beach. I took a walk on the beach and I was stunned at the number of people I saw there with their kids on the beach, the kids sitting there playing at their feet, and they're standing on the beach in this beautiful place and they've got their head buried in their phone.
Yeah.
So
what a lost opportunity that is. It's interesting. When you told me the book you're reading, I flashed back to the late 90s, actually. I was working for this guy. His name's Ken Powell, wherever he is. God bless him. And I was thinking about buying a BlackBerry. And he looked me straight in the eyes. He said, "Don't do it. It'll ruin your life." And he was right. It doesn't ruin my life, but it's certainly, yeah, I'm that person as well. Thank you for the book. It just went on the list and I almost screwed up and said, I'm going to put it on Audible and listen to it. But no, I actually have to get the physical book, don't I?
I listen to it on Audible. You can do that.
All right.
If you do it, let me know how it goes, because we can maybe form a support group, because it's not, I tell you, it is not easy. I felt like a heroin addict. I was like, I can do this, man. I can do it. It's no problem. So it's really hard.
45 minutes more. It's only 44 minutes more. It's only,
which is just another glaring reason why I needed to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question of the lightning round. I want you to define success for me. How do you define it in your life?
It's a great question. If I'm able to spend time doing the things I love with the people I love, with not having to worry about the money, to me, that is what will be success for me.
Yeah.
I still have to worry about the money.
Sure.
And my wife and I, a long time ago, made a commitment to ourselves that we wanted to value experiences over things. I can't tell you what I got for Christmas in 1981, but I can tell you about that first family trip that we took to Europe. And I can remember sitting in a cafe in Switzerland, drinking Swiss chocolate and eating a croissant across from my mom and my dad and my sister. And now part of that is because I have some photographs of that trip, but it takes me back and I can remember that. And like I said, I can't remember a single thing that somebody got me from that period, but I can remember those experiences. I can remember going to Lucerne, Switzerland, and seeing a sculpture in the mountain called Wounded Lion, which is, if anybody look up Wounded Lion, it's the most breathtaking natural sculpture I've ever seen in my life. So it's just value experiences over things is what I would leave you with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. So when you're not talking about real estate or self-storage, what do you like to do for fun?
I love to travel with my family. We're going up to New York for Thanksgiving. My sister lives in Manhattan. It's the first time I've ever been in Manhattan around the holidays. It's been on my bucket list for a while.
What a great experience that will be.
Yeah, we're going to go see some Broadway theater. We're planning a big trip to Japan, hopefully next year sometime. We gave my son a bunch of options for trips we could take, and he chose Japan.
Okay.
And then I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for 40 years. I love to go out and get out with my camera and take photos. And then I live at the beach, so I love to be near the water, on the water as much as I can.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Neil, thank you so much for your time today. It's really good to catch up, and congratulations on your company and all the success you and your partners are enjoying. If people want to learn more about you or Nomad Capital, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can visit nomadcapital.us is our website. You feel free to email me at NEIL, spell the correct way, not the sociopath way, at nomadcapital.us.
Okay. All right. No sociopaths. Got it. Neil Henderson, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
You too, Ed. Thanks for having me.
This has been The Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.